What's going on, my fellow Kino Lords? So today I'm going to be talking about Megalopolis, which is directed by Francis Ford Coppola and has a monster cast across the board. You got Adam Driver, you got Giancarlo Esposito, you got Aubrey Plaza, you got Shia LaBeouf, you got Jon Voight. I mean, there's a lot of stars in this movie. And this is a movie that just has kind of been in like the film culture for at least 2 years now. Like, I remember hearing about this movie way back when. I mean, this is a film that Coppola has been talking about making and has always, like he said, this has been a passion project of his for such a long time. And it's finally here. Like, we're finally witnessing this film and all of its monstrosity. And look, before I went into this film, I was already getting, like, it was already getting buzz that it was divisive as hell, right? Like, it was like all over the place divisive. And, you know, even Coppola himself, before it even went out and got screenings, he like was already telling you, like, yeah, this is not going to be a movie that everybody's going to love. This is a movie that he just wanted to make. And, you know, a completely like unchecked movie, just him doing whatever the fuck he wants. And, you know, we always love to see movies like that, right? You know, whether it's like Fellini with 8.5, or even like modern day, you have films like Beau Was Afraid from Ari Aster, Bardo from Alejandro González Iñárritu, like films like this, even like The House That Jack Built from Lars von Trier, that are just like artists just doing whatever the fuck they want, unchecked, and just hoping for the best, right? And when it comes to these movies, I don't think they really care that much if people end up liking it or not. It's just, it's there, and they just want to put it out there because they just really want to make it. And I think Megalopolis is another one of those movies from, you know, one of the most legendary filmmakers to live, Francis Ford Coppola. But yeah, like seeing and it's true, like ever since its release, lots of division, a lot of mixed reception. And I'm just thinking, like, what the fuck is the deal with Megalopolis? I'm dying to check this out and see what the fuck is going on. And now after watching this movie, I'm walking out of it thinking, what is the deal with Megalopolis? I don't even really know where to begin with this, because this film is just this big monstrous mess of a movie. And I think there's a good chunk of it that I feel like is intentionally that way, but then there's some of it where I'm just like, I'm just not even really sure what to make of this. And it's just, let me try to organize my thoughts in my head before I go too off the rails. Because this film in itself doesn't seem very organized, but I'll get to that later. But let me just start off by talking about the things that I liked about it. And let me just start off by saying that you should just go see this movie regardless of what I say or what anybody else says. This is a movie that kind of needs to be experienced to be believed in a way. And it's a film that, again, go watch for yourself and just see what you think about it walking out of it. Like, it's by design that some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. So yeah, don't take like my take and my thoughts as godsend. Like, just go find out for yourself. But yeah, what I liked about this movie is that it's a spectacle. Like, in a lot of ways, this is a spectacle kind of grandiose experience. There's these visually striking sequences that I really, really loved. And I mean, look, when I say visually striking, I don't mean that, like, yes, this movie overall looks good. You know, despite some really bad CGI here and there that I was like almost mind blown it was actually that bad. But beyond that, like, it overall looks good, but it's not like every frame a painting kind of thing. You know, it's not like one of those movies where you're like, oh, you could just take a picture, you could take a screenshot of any part in this movie and put it as a poster. Like, to me, no, it's not like that. When I say visually striking, I just mean that there's a handful of sequences in this movie that, through like the vision and the post-production creativity, just creates these like really unique, like these really unique editing sequences that really makes unique uses of imagery and sound and lighting and everything. Like, whether it be just like dissolving imagery on top of each other, You know, whether it be these really interesting looking transitions, or where like the screen is cut into thirds, and just how it flows together, and the score woven with that, like woven throughout the sequence. There's a lot of striking sequences in this movie that are filled with all kinds of imagery, and it feels kind of euphoric in certain ways. And those sequences are probably like my favorite elements of the movie, because it really made it feel like its own thing. You really see the creativity being poured out there, and it just felt engrossing, and I really like those parts. And even like, it still feels like a spectacle even beyond those elements of the movie, because of just how, like, you have this one Coliseum sequence that's like halfway through the movie. I don't even know if it's halfway. It might be a little bit before halfway. And that whole thing just felt so fucking bizarre. That's another thing that's probably one of my favorite sequences in the movie, like beyond the weird like visual post-production stuff. In terms of just like a big scene, that is probably my favorite scene in the movie. Because it's just so much going on. It feels like a fucking circus with all these different conflicts and different situations happening at once. These weird introductions to these characters we've never seen before. Just a lot of fucking bananas things going on in that entire sequence. And yeah, so like that Coliseum sequence also kind of contributes to how grandiose this film feels. Like, it feels like this gigantic, in a way, just like bizarre Hollywood spectacle. And yeah, so that's a huge thing that I liked about this movie, is that I feel like it did feel like a spectacle. It felt, in a way, kind of a one-of-a-kind experience, even though I will say one movie that I can compare this to is Caligula. Just in terms of the kind of connections that it wants to draw between Rome and modern society, and like sexual depravity and hedonism and things like that. Like, I think it just reminded me a lot of that. And also like in terms of structure, but I'll get to that later. So yeah, like that's a huge thing that I liked about the movie. Probably the biggest thing that I liked about the movie. The other thing I liked about this movie was that it did feel original in a lot of ways. And again, I like that it was a passion project, and I like that Coppola just didn't give a shit, right? Like, that's just like a really cool thing about it. Like, when you're watching this, you're like, yeah, Coppola, like, this is his moment where he's just like, fuck it, I'm doing what I want. The haters can go fuck off. I already said that, but I have to mention that again in the likes column for this movie. Another thing I really liked about this movie were two performances in general. Aubrey Plaza as like the corrupt journalist character. She plays like a seductive psycho bitch in this movie. And it's like, honestly, like perfect casting. Like, I love the casting choice of casting her in this role. Like, I think she did a really great job. And then we have another unhinged character in this movie played by Shia LaBeouf, who is the cousin to Adam Driver's character. Adam Driver's name is Caesar, which, you know, very on the nose. But Shia LaBeouf's character, he's probably my favorite character in the movie, to be honest with you. Like, he's so unhinged the entire film. He's like a horny little gremlin throughout this whole movie. And he's just really entertaining to watch. Like, he's constantly entertaining and just made me laugh in a lot of ways. There's a scene between him and Aubrey Plaza, like in the third act of the movie, where I was just like, dude, this is getting so wild. And it was just funny too. Like, but yeah, those two characters are my favorite characters of the whole movie. And it's largely because of the performances and the talent that was brought forth from the actors. So yeah, that's another thing. But anyway, I should probably talk about the things that I don't know about this movie. I really just feel either on the fence about or just straight up don't like. Let's just say that I think my biggest problem with this movie is that there's just not there's not really a lot of glue holding it together. Like, it just, this film is just like, it desperately needs connective tissue. Like, it needs something connecting everything that is occurring in this movie, because it just feels like things happen without much build-up context to a lot of it. Like, we get, like, whatever event happens and we move on, and then another event and conflict happens, but it just feels like they kind of happen and they kind of pop up again with not a lot of like narrative build-up to any of these things. There's like this lack of narrative flow throughout the movie that doesn't really make me as an audience member feel like I'm going from A to B in any kind of cohesive way. And I do feel like this movie kind of lacks cohesion in a way that kind of, makes me kind of give a shit about what's going on. Because the characters themselves are kind of paper thin. Like, you have Adam Driver's character. I mean, he's good in the movie. I like his performance. But in terms of, like, character substance, is not really much there. Like, whatever you get from him is on the surface, and I don't think there's anything deeper than that. And then the relationship angle that he has with Natalie Emmanuel, I just didn't care for. I didn't care for their romantic dynamic. And that the film has multiple scenes in it where it really wants you to take it sincerely, and I just didn't care. And I think that's like another big problem with the movie, is that whether it's through the lack of character writing or just proper narrative flow, I just ended up not caring about the characters or caring about the outcome of anything. It kind of relied, at least for me, I relied a lot on the spectacle element and the kind of goofiness of it and the over-the-top, outrageous element of it to keep my engagement and to kind of keep my mind on things. So that was kind of a huge problem I had with it, because when it comes to the finale, again, it doesn't really feel like a finale. Like, it just feels like another part of the movie, and then it ends. Just not this, like, I don't know. It just feels like another event that happens in the movie, and then the movie just kind of happens to end there. And it's disappointing, because I feel like this movie had so much potential to be this really amazing, like, just like bizarre original masterwork of a movie. And it just feels like Coppola splattered a bunch of different ideas on a canvas, but none of it, I don't say none of it, but there's only some of it that feels cohesive and fleshed out and well realized. Because again, obviously, I think he wants to draw connections, as I mentioned, between, ancient Rome and modern society. And then I think he also wants to make connections with the political landscape as well, because Shia LaBeouf's character, especially with what he devolves into by the end of this movie, he comes off very, like, Trumpian. Like, his whole appeal is, he's unfiltered and says what he wants. He's politically incorrect. I mean, they even went out of his way to put like a swastika symbol. So I feel like, this film, I feel like, wants to be political as well. But overall, I just feel like I don't know exactly what the tone of this movie is, because there's so much of it that kind of feels like a joke movie. Like, it feels like a movie that's, like, intentionally not even trying to be good, just because of dialogue delivery and really bad on the nose dialogue, where, like, characters and situations are implying, like, dialogue has already implied what things mean and what the situation is, and you have characters that spell shit out more. But then just what feels like cardboard acting and just bad dialogue, especially from Natalie in this movie. I wasn't really a fan of her performance. But yeah, I don't know. Like, there's so much about it that I'm like, is it supposed to be, like, intentionally bad? Am I supposed to be there? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of parts in this movie where I think the tone with the humor is established enough to where, like, okay, I can tell I'm supposed to laugh at this and enjoy it. But there's a lot of other parts in this movie where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what this movie wants me to do. I just felt, it felt off-putting because there's some ridiculous parts of it that I felt like was supposed to be taken sincerely. There's goofy ass moments in it that I'm not sure if it was meant to be that way. So I don't know. And there are some parts that I can tell for sure, like I'm supposed to laugh at this. So I don't know. The tone in this movie, again, feels erratic, feels like a circus in and of itself. So I don't know, man. This movie's a wild one. It's all over the fucking place in every regard, really, whether it's the narrative or the tone. It's hardly any like consistency on what it wants to do. At least I didn't feel like it communicated to me exactly what it wanted to be or wanted to do. Again, there's a lot of ideas here, and I feel like a lot of important things that Coppola wanted to say, but ultimately I walk out of the movie feeling like it didn't say anything about any of those things besides what's already there on the surface. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Look, I think overall I enjoyed it. But I don't know. I think I walked away from it a bit disappointed still. So I think I said enough about the movie without really spoiling it. So I'll give Megalopolis a solid 6 out of 10 for now. I don't know if that's gonna go up or down on rewatch. I have no fucking idea. But I do plan on watching it again, perhaps one more time before it leaves theaters, because seeing it on the big screen is a must. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say about Megalopolis. If you've seen it already, I would love to hear your thoughts on this movie, because this is a divisive one. It's a mixed one for good reason. So that's all I'll say, guys. Thank you for watching. If you really enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.